Hello there. Today's topic continues the discussion about ethics, integrity, and doing the right thing. Ethical leadership is such an important topic as your behavior as a leader and your responses to events and situations influence the behavior of others and the work environment within which people work. I previously spoke about ethical leadership, and today we're going to talk about becoming an ethical leader. Future videos will talk about ethical courage and integrity, so we'll get into some other things in future videos. I'm Dr. Julie Donnelly, the healthcare coach, and my passion is to help you become the best leader you can be so you feel good about your leadership ability, you feel confident, and you enjoy leading. Together, we can change the culture within healthcare and create work environments that where people feel psychologically safe and they're engaged. There's less stress, less burnout, and more satisfaction and happiness from doing the very thing that we love to do, which is caring for people. So if you're new to the channel or have not yet done so, go ahead and subscribe now. All right, today's topic, becoming an ethical leader. Ethics is a code of moral principles and values that govern behavior of either an individual or a group. Your role as a leader is to lead, and ethics asks the question, where are you leading them? An ethical leader will shape the work environment through their actions. So it's important that you're careful about how you approach challenges and situations. Good leadership starts with leading yourself. Healthcare professionals often put ourselves second in importance. We put everybody else first. But ethics requires that you're in touch with your feelings, that sense of right and wrong, and you must be willing to discuss those feelings and the situation so that you can gain other perspectives and determine the best course of action. There are several ways to approach ethics in the workplace. We'll cover three here. The first is that you can listen to authority and just do what you're told to avoid punishment. This type of leadership style or environment is often authoritarian. You do what you're supposed to do regardless. And early in our careers, we follow the rules. We don't mind being told what to do because we don't know enough or trust ourselves enough to stray from those rules. However, when you take actions that conflict with your personal ethical standards, what you believe is right, merely to prevent any perceived negative consequences or to avoid punishment, then your anger and your resentment build. Negative consequences could be fear of being yelled at, fear of being reprimanded, fear of getting in trouble, retaliation, fear of being fired. This practice causes stress and it can have negative personal consequences. Working in fear is no way to work well. From a leadership perspective, this fear-based environment that gets created impacts people's level of engagement and productivity. It also contributes to poor morale and contributes to turnover. Okay, the second way that we can practice ethics in the workplace is to conform to the expectations of the group. Good behavior as defined by others in the social system. And this is typically how we socialize people into a group. It's how things are done around here, right? It's much more team oriented and collaborative. In many ways, leaders use this approach to define group practices and guide people towards the outcomes that they want. It's much more comfortable work environment to work in. However, you can also already start to see that there's some limitations to that when if the group isn't, if the group norms aren't working, or if an issue is not addressed within the group social system, then you need to, and this is the third way of approaching ethics in the workplace, you follow your own personal principles of justice and right, to make decisions that balance concern for individuals with concern for the common good. And this behavior, this type of practice, requires a couple things. One, it requires ethical courage. People need to have the ethical courage to speak up. They have to be willing to speak up and talk about the issues. And it also requires a work environment where it's safe to speak up, where people feel that they will be heard and that their issues will be addressed. This requires a transformational or a servant leader, someone who is where they create that environment of trust, authenticity, and empowerment. Now, have you ever been in a position where someone behaved badly or spoke to you badly? Most of us have. What did you do? Did you feel safe to speak up? Did you speak up anyway, whether you felt safe or not? Ethics requires courage, the courage to say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. Now, often there are unwritten rules in workplaces, and you need to decide which you're going to follow and which you're not going to follow. And that's part of becoming an ethical leader. So when you're at a place long enough, you earn a reputation. As a young nurse, I wanted to be the kind of person where people were glad to see me on the unit and looked forward to working with me. I never wanted to be that person that goes, oh God, Julie's here. I wanted people to be excited, like, oh good, Julie's here, right? And this guided my behavior in two ways. One, it meant that I needed to be good at my job and be a good team player. And two, I needed to be consistent and clear about my expectations and my level of integrity so people knew what was acceptable behavior when they worked with me. So people came to know me as a very no-nonsense person. And one time, while I was working as a mental health nurse, I was asked to stay for a night shift. There was one staff member who had had a reputation for sleeping on the job. Now, I didn't know whether this was true or not. I only knew that it wasn't going to happen on my shift. And I didn't want to be the one to write him up. I didn't work there enough. I only knew that the behavior was intolerable and unacceptable, and it could be dangerous for people. So my job, of course, as the charge nurse, was to ensure safety. What would you do? How might you approach the situation to prevent issues before they arise? So I had no idea whether this person knew me, knew my standards or not, so I decided to communicate them. I chose to be proactive. I went around to each staff member and said three things. One, I informed them that I was there to support them, that I cared about them and their well-being for the evening. I wanted to let them know that if they needed a break, to just ask, that whatever they needed to be safe, I was there for them. And also to remind them that of other incidents that had occurred when staff were not attentive. We had had someone be fired recently. So I also reminded them of the problematic patients that we had, the danger that they posed, and to hopefully to rally them to have a good and safe night together. And I wanted to tap into their own sense of right and wrong to help them connect with their own values. We had no incidents or problems that night. And while I hope that my behavior set an example for future nights, I cannot know that. If the behavior is tolerated by other people, then, it will certainly continue. Ethical leadership requires that you know who you are, you know what you stand for, and it requires the courage to act, which we will cover, as I mentioned, in a future video. If you do nothing and say nothing, then are you being ethical? Often leaders may seek support from a coach or mentor to help accelerate the development of ethical and conscious leadership. Many of my clients use me as their sounding board to help them think through some of these challenges that they face. If I can be of support to you, please reach out. There's no need to feel like you're out there by yourself. You can reach me through my website at drjuliedonnelly.com. So to recap today, becoming an ethical leader requires you to know what you stand for and craft a work environment where others are clear about how they should behave as well. And that requires consistent attention to the expectations and values that you espouse and want to shape in others. Ethics can be demonstrated by following rules, collaborating with others as part of the social system, and going along with the norms, or following what you believe to be right and use your own moral compass. And ethical leadership also requires for you to know who you are, know what you stand for, and what you will and will not tolerate. All right, your actions for the week. Identify some of the issues that you're facing currently. What problems, frustrations, or concerns are you facing right now? What keeps you up at night? Is there something that you're not addressing that is causing you to feel stressed and out of sorts? Identifying these issues is the first step. And as I said, next time we'll talk about ethical courage and what it takes to face those fears and to actually to speak up to make a difference. I highly recommend that you keep a journal and reflect upon your experiences and what you're learning. Let me know how you're doing. Place your comments below or ask me any questions so I know what you need and I can assist you in future video lessons. If you need to reach out to me or you want assistance with something, please visit my website at drjulie.com. As I mentioned before, you're not alone out there. Okay? Like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything, and I will see you next time. Make it a great day.